Welcome back to the Tracy Take. Today, Ryan and I will be continuing our little mini series called Season Review. This is part 5, where we are going over the New York Giants and the 2022 season, or I guess 2021 season that they had. But before we get into that, Ryan and I, we have a goal of getting to 400 subscribers by Super Bowl weekend. We are only 3 weeks away from that. So if you have not already, any help would be greatly appreciated. So subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button, comment on this video, share this video with your Giants friends and fans. And Ryan, let's get into it. So
Let's do it.
the New York Giants, another kind of season where just did not really play well throughout the whole year. A lot of injuries, a lot of not good play in general. But we want to start out on a good note. What are some of the kind of top key points that went well for the Giants this year?
So for me, I think that Azeez Ojulari was definitely a good pick. He was a second-round pick for them in this last draft, and he had 2 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, 8 sacks on 13 QB hits, 8 tackles for loss, and 49 total tackles. I just think he had a really good rookie season. Him next to Dexter Lawrence and some of the other pieces that they have, I think worked really well. And I do think that it can be improved. This defensive line was not the best, but it wasn't the worst by far. And I think in a deep edge rushing class, they'll definitely be able to add a few pieces to kind of complement some of the people that they already have. And then I think the secondary, for what it was, played well. I know it was not as good as it was last year. James Bradbury didn't quite play to the same level. He had a 62.8 PFF grade at the end of the season, which is just not what Giants fans had hoped when they were leaning on him to be a number 1 corner. But overall, their secondary was ranked 15th in the NFL, so just barely above average. And I think that there is room to grow there. Xavier McKinney and Adoree Jackson are still young. And I think they still have Jabril Peppers.
I believe so, yes.
And so I think there's definitely some talent there. And if they can just get a coach in there that I think can help them play to what they want, then I think that this defense will come around a lot quicker than the offense will.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have anything else good that you think that they did this year?
One good thing I would say, shout out to Kadarius Toney. He was the first overall pick. He played in 10 games and had 420 receiving yards on 39 catches. So I would say just a solid start, a solid rookie season start. We shout out Nico Collins, and he had similar numbers. Actually, probably even less because Nico Collins played in more games than Kadarius Toney. So hopefully he can bounce back. Another thing as well, just to shout out, is Saquon Barkley did play 13 games this year, so it's nice to see him back and healthy. Didn't have a great year, only 593 rushing yards, I believe. Yeah. Him and Devontae Booker actually had the same. But still, to have him just be healthy, it'll be good for the Giants. Now he can rest up this whole offseason, come back brand spanking new. And then also will help him when he hits free agency, just to show that, hey, I'm still healthy. So I actually think he's got 1 or 2 more years, but not too much to really be said overall. That's great.
I do have to disagree with you a little bit on the Kadarius Toney part.
Go ahead.
And I think as we segue into, I guess, the bad, and there's a lot more in the bad category, I just think the whole receiver group as a whole really underperformed. I know Kadarius Toney was in and out with injuries, but I was reading up on the team and kind of what happened this season, and their first round pick, Kadarius Toney, and their high market free agent signing, Kenny Golladay, were outperformed in the touchdown category by none other than left tackle Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas caught more touchdowns this year than Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney combined.
And that's fair.
And that's just not what you want to see from a first round pick and a guy that's going to have a $23.5 million cap hit on you this year.
Yeah.
So, and then they signed John Ross on kind of a flyer. And a lot of what they did this season at the wide receiver position just did not work out.
Yeah.
And I do hope that Kadarius Toney can turn things around. He did battle some injuries. But again, they just, in my opinion, extremely underperformed for the price that was paid.
Yeah.
For those playmakers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. And that's
But
what in this, like when looking at it and reviewing it, it's like trying to find some stuff that was good. And I was like, I would say just like looking
yeah,
at that, all things considered, rookie year, not a bad rookie year. Was it good?
yeah,
Or was it great? No, it'll be one of the more forgettable rookie seasons.
no, yeah,
But when you look at this Giants team, I mean, not too much is going on, and part of the reason, especially that for a lot of the offensive woes, it's kind of segued into the bad, is this offensive line. This offensive line has been atrocious
yeah,
and will continue to be atrocious for a long time. The only I would say bright spot, Andrew Thomas is still one of the better left tackles in the league. He had 78.4 PFF grade.
yeah,
Other than that, though, just absolute
yeah,
horrendousness. And I'm normally not for like double dipping when it comes into picking for the draft, but I do
hmm,
think that it is something to consider for the Giants when their first two picks. They had the 5th overall pick and then the 7th overall pick. Akeem Ekwonu.
Ekwonu. That's who I was gonna say. Yeah, Ekwonu.
Akeem Ekwonu. I think that's a sure thing. He will be there at 5. Charles Cross
Yeah,
might be there at number 7 if the Panthers don't take him. But why the hell not? Just get a totally new young core. You have a right tackle, right guard, left guard, or whatever. Move these pieces around because
yeah,
you have Saquon Barkley, who is one of the better running backs in the league, in my opinion, but he has no help whatsoever. That's how he got hurt. You are not giving Daniel Jones any chance, really, with
no,
any protection whatsoever. And even if they decide to move on from Daniel Jones, they're not going like whoever they put back there is not going to perform at all, just because of how
yeah,
weak this offensive line is. So I don't think they will. I don't think they should, but I think it's something that's worth considering. If you don't think George Karlaftis or
yeah,
David Ojobi or who is this Devin Lloyd linebacker from Utah that they can
yeah,
come in and be as big of an impact as just totally revamping this offensive line, then maybe consider a double dipping at the offensive line position in the first 2 picks, only because
yeah.
they are that atrocious and they have been that atrocious in
Mhm.
the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that they should beef up in the trenches. For me, I'm taking uh, Charles Cross or Akim Ekwonu in that at that number 5 pick, only because you need somebody
Mm-hmm.
just to come in and do well. And then at 7, I'm taking the best player available that fits my scheme. I think whether that's George Karlaftis from Purdue or David Ojabo
Mm-hmm.
or man, maybe if Tyler Linderbaum's there, you can upgrade your center position. But
They'll be
I think
there.
you
Yeah.
have to you have to do something in the trenches because Dallas has a good offensive line, Philly has a good offensive line, Washington is starting to build up their offensive line, and then if you look at the defensive lines, I mean Dallas has a good defensive line, Philly has a good defensive line, and I mean Washington probably has the best of all the teams in that
Yeah.
division. So I think you have to either keep pace on the defensive line or beef up your offensive line
Mm-hmm.
if you want anything to happen.
Well, and
And
that's it.
that kind of brings me into
Well, and that's just an overall general state. I mean, we've seen them have
like,
one of the worst offensive lines in the league now for a long time, and
yeah,
they're picking
yeah,
in the same spot every single year. And this is the year they
yeah,
have to absolutely do. They're getting a new coach, new GM. They need to come in,
yeah.
and I don't know how they're going to get rid of Daniel Jones. Only because, as you mentioned, we have 3.5.
I
They
don't.
have 3.5 million in salary cap space or something like that going into the
Yeah,
offseason. So
yeah. Like they have very
even if
little.
you get rid of him, who are you going to bring in? And also at the same time, it's not even like he's been the whole issue this entire time. This offensive line
No, and
can't protect him.
yeah, and that so like for me, he played 11 games this year and was like the epitome of average.
Mm-hmm.
11 games, about 2,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, had an 84.8 passer rating,
Mm-hmm.
and just like it was just completely average. And so I'm really curious if they can beef up that offensive line if this offense starts to come around. And then Saquon Barkley as well. Saquon Barkley had a good season, but for who he is, it was not nearly what his numbers should be.
Yeah.
And I think if they can beef up this offensive line and get him some help, just get people that are more aggressive, and really help this run game, and that too can do wonders for an offense. So I think definitely. Oh, man, they have so much to do on offense, and I think this offseason they tried to go from the outside in, and I think they totally took the wrong philosophy for how this team wants to play. So yeah, but I guess that's a good segue kind of into the draft and kind of what they should do there. I mean, we kind of already talked about it, but do you really think that they should double up at 5 and 7 on offensive line talent?
I'm saying that they should consider it. Should highly consider it. They probably won't. I'm sure they will later on in the draft, like maybe in their second round or third round pick, go and find another potential swing tackle that could come in.
Munford out of Ohio State.
Potentially, yeah. But it just it has been so atrocious. I think that should be a conversation that is had. Is if they, whether they take Charles Cross or Akeem Ekwonu, and then if the other guy's still there, that needs to be like, should we do that, or should we go George Karlaftis, David Ojabo, especially then with them picking Azeez Ojulari, seems to be a trend of these young guys coming out, or the start of a trend at least, of them being able to turn these guys into these sack making machines, and that could also be something that they could address as well, and make that even better. So as I said, I don't think that's something that they need to do, but they at least need to have a conversation about it, because if you don't have an offensive line in the NFL, you're not going anywhere. Offensively,
especially one as bad as this one.
Yeah.
And that for me, I mean, I think offensive line should 100% be one of these two picks. I think this is a pretty deep class. I think there's going to be a lot of talent going in the second, third, and fourth round. So maybe they'll double up there. And to me, a lot of like the coaching, or a lot of the defensive problems, can be resolved through coaching. I think if they bring in a guy, I don't want to say like Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh is Robert Saleh, and there may not be a guy like that, but I think they can bring a physicality-minded coach into this system with these players. I think that defense will kind of return to what it was a couple years ago when it was a top 10 defense.
Well, there's definitely talks. There's definitely talks of. Just saw, I think, Dan Quinn, former Falcons coach, and
I think that'd be a good one.
Yeah, Dallas defensive coordinator is having an interview either today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good fit. And Dan Quinn, he does get good players in. I mean, Cowboys had a hell of a draft this past season, drafting like 8 defensive players, and a lot of them made an impact this year. So, yeah. But other than that, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. I think the Giants have a really interesting outlook on 2022. And I'm really curious to see what approach they take this offseason and what approach they take in the draft. So other than that, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Please make sure to comment down below on what you think the Giants will do, and please like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.